House Republicans continue to brutally struggle to figure out who the heck is going to lead their party and thus the House of Representatives, and President Joe Biden is rightfully mocking them for it. Well, as of when I'm recording this, Republicans have gotten no closer to picking who will be the Speaker of the House, leaving, of course, the House completely frozen in its functionality. Now, I'll give you an update on what's taken place in the last 24 hours on that front in just a moment, but I first want to take a look at President Joe Biden mocking Jim Jordan for the now 2 failed votes for Speaker. This is Joe Biden in Israel.
Do you have a view of Jim Jordan's current predicament, unable to secure the speakership?
I think for no. 0, none.
Quote, I ache for him. Priceless. And he's, of course, being silly, but there is an underlying question. As people, such as us, not responsible for the catastrophe of a party that is in control of the House, how are we supposed to feel about all of this? Because not having an effective governing party as the majority in the U.S. House of Representatives has massive negative ramifications, both domestically and abroad. So in that sense, it's incredibly serious, and as Americans, we should all be concerned, somber even. But on a more shallow level, we've been calling out the disaster of the Republican Party for some time, begging them to reject this MAGA part of their party. And so now the chickens are sort of coming home to roost. The very moderate Republicans that ignored the warnings from people like Joe Biden and myself and everyone left of center, essentially, are pulling their hair out because their party can't govern, and finally they're acknowledging it. They can't even pick someone to lead the party, a basic obligation. And so I do think mocking it from time to time because of that is very reasonable. I also think the image of Joe Biden accomplishing what he has in the last 24, 48 hours while Republicans achieve absolutely nothing is super powerful. We talked on yesterday's members only bonus show about this. Biden is getting real things done, traveling to Israel, showing his support, plus successfully coordinating and negotiating to get aid to Gaza, convincing Israel to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza and the West Bank. Meanwhile, Jim Jordan is unsuccessfully trying to become speaker and accomplishing nothing for anyone. That's what's going on the other side. And I hope Americans are watching and taking notes and will remember that in 2024. Now, as to where things stand with Jim Jordan's attempt to become a speaker, we are, as of when I'm recording this, it could change at any moment in time, but we're at a standstill. It seemed like yesterday a third vote was going to be held, but then all of a sudden that was just called off. Then it seemed like Jim Jordan was going to give the green light to temporarily have Republicans give up on even trying to pick a speaker and just give more power to the acting speaker, Patrick McHenry. And if the House approved that, it'd be giving more power to Patrick McHenry, and he could be able to open up the House and keep things moving a little bit until the speaker is formally selected. But then some Republicans said, no, we aren't going to just let the acting speaker do the bare minimum for a while. We won't approve that step and want to continue trying to pick a permanent speaker. My goodness. And the reasoning from them is that they want to pick someone who's actually empowered by the conference to implement a policy agenda, not just fulfill basic obligations. I also think it would be quite the embarrassing moment if Republicans just give up for weeks on this altogether. So we are back to exactly where we were yesterday. Jim Jordan is negotiating behind the scenes, trying to win over more support, which I'll remind you, last time he did this and last time he lost a vote, then tried to go for another round, he lost votes in between those 2 rounds. So we'll see how lucky the third time is. By the way, here was Nancy Pelosi's response to Jim Jordan's failure thus far to attain the position.
Curious, what is your reaction to another failed speaker vote with the Republicans?
Well, I think it was a triumph for democracy in our country that an insurrection was rejected by the Republicans again as their candidate for speaker. We've always wished the winning party well as they choose their leader. I've never, in the decades that I've been here, when we've had a speaker's race on our side or their side, we've always respected each other's judgment. But today and yesterday, that was an assault on our democracy, as Jim Jordan assaulted our democracy on January 6th.
And she is exactly right. It's already horrible that Jim Jordan is this close to becoming speaker, but especially if it actually happens, that will be a truly humiliating moment for the United States. Picking someone who participated in an effort to overthrow our lawful constitutional process to install Trump as the president, trying to get Mike Pence to just unconstitutionally deny certain electors from numerous states and declare Trump the president. Imagine the House of Representatives selecting someone to be one of the most powerful people in our democracy who attempted to throw that democracy in the trash can. Just say, nah, Mike Pence and Trump and me, for some reason, we get to choose what the electoral count was, not the people, not our lawful process. Not to mention the way that he perpetuated dangerous lies to justify those actions that we are still dealing with to this day about our elections. Then you have Republican Senator Mitt Romney nicely summing up Jim Jordan here.
Do you think Jim Jordan is the right Republican to be Speaker of the House?
Well, it does seem like the Republicans in the House are letting the tail wag the dog. The great majority of the Republicans in the House, I think, would like to have someone that represents the mainstream of our party. Jim Jordan represents a small part of the party, but a very vocal part of the party. And they've been calling the shots. He's probably not the first choice I would have made, but it's not my choice. It's up to them. Whether he'll get the job or not, I don't know. But if he does get the job, it'll be a case of the dog catching the car, which is what happens then. I mean, there are people in my party who go to Washington to bark, to make noise, not to make law, but to make noise. I think Jim Jordan would call himself one of those who's got a lot to say and is loud and barking, but actually passing law, getting law that's signed not just by members of the House, but also in the Senate and by the president. That's a different matter. And we'll see whether he rises to the occasion if he becomes Speaker.
We talked about this previously, but Jim Jordan is one of the least effective legislators in all of the House. He has pretty much no record to speak of other than running pointless hearings and making a lot of noise, as Mitt Romney pointed out, and good for him for saying that. And so it's so strange that we're in this time where one party in Congress wants to pick a notoriously unsuccessful legislator to lead a legislative body. Very strange. And finally, I have for you a former Ohio State wrestler who is accusing Jim Jordan of ignoring and even potentially covering up the sexual assault that was done by the team doctor at the time. This is from Jordan's time as an assistant wrestling coach. And William Knight, the former wrestler, addresses this line we've heard from allies of Jordan that says, Jim Jordan is this big fighter. He's a fighter for the people. And what Knight points out is he wasn't a fighter for us when we needed his help.
Thank you for joining us, Will. At first, I want to just get your reaction to what we just played from Congresswoman Stefanik. His past wrestling coach credentials being cited in a nominating speech on the House floor.
Well, thanks for having me, Abby. The funny thing is that when people always call Jim Jordan a fighter, and I always wonder who he's fighting for, because he had a real opportunity to fight for us and the people that he coached and the people that he recruited at the Ohio State. And all he's done is just turned his back on us. So I don't know what the fighter thing is. I know he used to be a fighter. I know he used to be a good wrestler, but he's not a good fighter for anyone else that I know of.
And it has been really aggravating to see so many Republicans just ignore these serious allegations. Nancy Mace, for example, pretending like she had no idea they even existed when she was pressed on them, which is nearly impossible, by the way. And William Knight is exactly right. If Jim Jordan really had this incredible backbone and could fight for what is right, why did he, allegedly, according to Knight and others, fail to do so when it mattered? He had a chance to show this supposed bravery in a real moment when people needed him, and he failed. Pretty powerful. So we'll see how this all plays out for House Republicans. And unfortunately, every possible outcome is not really good for America. Hey, don't forget to become a member at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership, where you will now be getting access to a daily bonus show, entire bonus show, Monday through Friday exclusively for our members. Plus, follow me on Threads at Luke Beasley Official, Instagram at Luke Beasley Official, Twitter or X at Luke P. Beasley. Sign up for the Beasley Brief, a daily morning newsletter summarizing the previous day's events by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/brief. And I'll see you all in the next video.